super fun, and all about artisan cheese and more to melt your peaceful heart and toast your peaceful life. Coming to you from the Appalachian Mountains of southwestern Virginia, this is the Peaceful Heart FarmCast.
Hey, this is Scott Hall from Peaceful Heart Farm, and you are listening to the Peaceful Heart FarmCast.
Hello, everybody. Melanie Hall here. Hope you are doing well. The conversation today and every day revolves around the value of tradition, traditional living, traditional food prep and storage, traditional cooking, and of course, traditional raw milk products and artisan cheese. Topics discussed here are designed to create new perspectives and possibilities for how you might add the taste of tradition to your life. And for a little change of pace, popular cheeses is today's topic, as I'm sure I've worn you all out on all of those raw milk podcasts. The recipe today is a fun, quick, and easy method of making your own fresh cheese, or as the Mexican cheese lovers call it, Queso Fresco. I want to take a minute and say welcome to all my new listeners. Welcome back to veteran homestead-loving regulars who stop by the FarmCast for every episode. I appreciate you so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. There is no show without you. And I'm so excited to share with you what's going on at the farm this week, but only a few quick notes, right? And the most important news is going to be first, we have a new calf. Cloud gave birth to Luna on the 23rd of November. She was a healthy and vigorous 70-pound heifer, and mom and calf are doing really well. All of the other cows are drying up their milk for their winter respite from producing milk, and they will start producing milk again in the spring when they have their new calves. And let's see, Scott finished all of the blocks of the interior walls in the creamery, and he's off to other tasks for the past few days, like fixing fences, preparing the pastures for winter grazing and hay feeding as we move into the winter season on the homestead. So the sheep and goats are doing well, though we are missing 2 goat girls. All of the gates were escaping, as goats do on a regular basis, and so Scott fixed the place in the fence where they were escaping, but we're still missing 2 of them. And he also moved the goats from one pasture to another, so perhaps the stragglers simply haven't figured out where everyone is at the moment. And there are gates open at various places so they can get inside a pasture and closer to the main group. And then we can close those gates and have them back inside. No sign of them for a couple of days, so we'll keep our eyes open and do some serious searching if needed. But they're usually somewhere in the general area. Oh, we'll probably just end up having to go out there and run through the woods looking for them and getting them back in. Now, let me talk a little bit about my latest project, the homeless shelter. I had the pleasure of making a meal for the women staying at the homeless shelter that's sponsored by our church. It operates from the 1st of December to the 31st of March. And Scott and I always have an abundance of food. And so this is a great way to help those who are less fortunate. Homelessness is running rampant in the U.S. And, I could just complain about how bad it is and look for the government to step in and do something. However, I wanted to make a real difference. Most of these ladies are either mentally ill and incapable of caring for themselves, or they have issues with drugs or alcohol. And it's a difficult situation, and one without an easy solution, and I do what I can to ease their troubles with a good hot meal on a cold night. I'll be providing these meals 2 to 4 times per month throughout this winter. And cooking for 30 is a challenge, but I am up to it. Last night, along with the meatloaf, green beans, and chocolate cake, they got to try my very excellent mac and cheese. It was a big hit. And the popular cheeses in that recipe are Gruyere and cheddar, which I will be touching on in today's podcast. Let's talk about some of the popular cheeses, how to recognize them, and what to do with them. As I've talked about previously, cheese is the result of an interaction between milk and bacteria, or an enzyme called rennet. And it causes it to coagulate. Then you separate the curds from the whey, and you have the cheese. For more information on basic cheese making, please see my previous podcast, The Basics of Cheese Making. There's a link in the show notes. In a nutshell, the milk proteins, or caseins, coagulate, and they form solid curds, which are then separated and drained from the coagulated proteins, and there's a curd and whey, two products. Now, there is also additional processing, like before and after the coagulation and the whey separation. And these things include you're adding special cultures and bacteria, yeast, or mold. There's salting, pressing, aging, and curing. And various combinations of these processes create the varieties of cheese available today. And again, I have the basics of that laid out in a podcast called The Basics of Cheese Making. But what I want to talk about here are there are basic groups or types of cheese that come out of that. So it's based on processing techniques, and those cheeses are going to fall into a few selected areas. There are hard cheeses, semi-hard cheeses, semi-soft cheeses, and soft cheeses. Soft cheeses come in both fresh and ripened varieties. All of the others, the hard, the semi-hard, the semi-soft, those are all basically ripened cheeses. But the fresh cheeses don't necessarily have to be ripened, though some of them are. I'm going to give just a very brief overview and description of a few popular cheeses in each category and how each might be used in your home. So brief overviews and a select few is all I will have time for today. If you'd like more information, please comment below the podcast and I will answer your questions to the best of my ability. You can also comment on YouTube. I publish my podcasts on YouTube as well. They're on my website. So those are the two places where you could actually do comments. Or you can send me an email, Melanie at Peaceful Heart Farm, and I'll answer your questions to the best of my ability. Let's start with hard cheeses. We're going to do hard, semi-hard, semi-soft, and then the soft cheeses. So we'll start with the hard cheeses. The hard cheeses have been aged to reduce moisture content to about 30%. And hard cheeses are often used for grating. They're so dry and hard. And the maximum flavor is going to come from a freshly grated cheese. And let's see. So most of popular cheeses in the category of hard are coming up here. So I'm going to start with Asiago. Now, Asiago is an Italian cow's milk cheese, tangy, nutty flavor, a texture that varies depending on the age of the cheese. As with all of these hard cheeses, they are aged for a long time. So you're going to have various flavor changes as they age. Asiago is white to pale yellow in color, and it melts easily. Now, Wendy's fast food restaurant makes an Asiago chicken sandwich, or they used to. I haven't had fast food in I don't know how long, but now their Asiago is sliced. It's not grated. But it certainly melts well. It was yum yum then. I'm sure it is still yum yum now if they have it. All right, next on the hard cheeses is Parmigiano Reggiano, or as we would call it here in the U.S., Parmesan. True Parmigiano Reggiano is a cow's milk cheese, and it's from an area in Italy near Parma. The name is protected and can only be used when strict production guidelines are followed, and the least of which is it must be produced in a specific area near Parma, Italy. It has a sharp, spicy taste and a very hard, dry texture. Parmigiano Reggiano is always used grated or shaved. Now, the knockoff produced in the United States and elsewhere is called Parmesan, as I mentioned, and it doesn't match the flavor of the original. And I'm not even talking about that powdered stuff in the green can. I'm talking about stuff you can buy, an actual fresh-made Parmesan cheese in the United States. It's never going to be like the Parmesan Reggiano that you can get from Italy. This type of cheese is used in gratins and pastas and as a topping for salads and other dishes. All right, next, Pecorino Romano. and that's made in the central and southern Italy from sheep's milk. Pecorino Romano has a robust and piquant flavor, and it's noticeably salty. So it can be served as a table cheese or grated for cooking. And again, the name is protected. In the U.S., we know this popular cheese just as Romano, but originally it is Pecorino Romano, and the Romano in the United States is probably not made from sheep's milk. It's probably cow's milk. I'll have to look that up. I don't really know. But originally, the Pecorino Romano was made from sheep's milk. All right, so those are some of the most popular hard cheeses. Let's look at some of the semi-hard cheeses. They have a little more moisture content than hard cheese. They range from 30% to 40% moisture. It gives them a firm and solid texture. And their flavors are going to range from mild to quite sharp, again, depending on age. So, probably the most popular, cheddar. With origins in Great Britain, it's actually the most popular cheese in the world. This is a cow's milk cheese, and it ranges from mild to sharp in flavor. It has a dense texture, and the orange cheddars owe their color to a vegetable dye that's made from annatto seeds. And you'll see uncolored cheddars, also pale yellow, almost white sometimes. And then there's Colby, and that's a popular mild American cheddar cheese. So we call it Colby, but it's really made in the cheddar style. Not aged as long as a good stout cheddar. So you're going to use your cheddars in grilling and cooking, on sandwiches and snack trays. You can just use cheddar just anywhere. Now let's talk about Emmental. Emmental is the original cow's milk Swiss cheese with the very large holes, and that's caused by gases that form during the ripening. There's actually a ripening culture that's put in there that makes those holes form. It has a mild, nutty taste, and it comes in 200-pound wheels. Emmental is a classic choice for fondue, but it is also is used in sandwiches, snacks, dessert trays, and Swiss cheese is the Americanized Emmental cheese, and not the stuff that you buy in those packages like Kraft cheese. That's not really the same thing at all. Then there's Jarlsberg, and Jarlsberg, that's a cow's milk cheese from Norway, but its taste, its fat content, its appearance, they're going to be similar to the Swiss Emmental. And Jarlsberg is often used on cheese boards, in sandwiches, and in cooking. Then there's Gruyere, which is another Swiss cow's milk cheese. Gruyere has a mild, nutty taste. It's a moist texture somewhat. My raw milk Gruyere is much more dry than you'll find in these commercial cheeses in the store. And it has small holes. And because Gruyere melts easily, it's suitable for cooking. It can also be served as an appetizer and as a dessert cheese. I use it in fondue and my mac and cheese. Monterey Jack, that's a rich cow's milk cheese from California, and it ranges from mild and pale to a sharp and pungent yellow cheese. Monterey Jack sometimes contains peppers or herbs for flavor. It melts well, and so it's an appropriate choice for cooking. And the last of the semi-hard cheeses is Provolone. Provolone is a cow's milk cheese from southern Italy. It has pale yellow color and a flavor that ranges from mild to sharp, again, depending on age. Provolone also comes smoked and in a variety of shapes. So it could be in a cone, it can be round, it can be cylinders. And we use provolone in cooking, we use it in sandwiches, or again as an appetizer. Now let's talk about semi-soft cheeses. Semi-soft cheeses are going to have a moisture content going up from the 30 to 40 of the semi-hard. We're going to go 40 to 50% for the semi-soft cheeses. And their texture is smooth and sliceable, but not spreadable. Semi-soft cheeses can be classified into two groups. You got the smooth, buttery cheeses, and then you have the veined cheeses, which owe their distinctive appearance and taste to the veins of blue or blue-green mold running through them. So let's first look at the smooth buttery cheeses. We have Fontina, and that's a nutty, rich cow's milk cheese, again from Italy. It has a slightly elastic touch and a few small holes. You're going to use Fontina on dessert trays and in cooking. Then we have Gouda. Now, Gouda is a Dutch cow's milk cheese, and it's pale yellow. It has a mellow, buttery flavor, and a mature Gouda has a firmer texture and a more pronounced flavor. Now, that's what I do. I age my Gouda. And it's often packaged in red or yellow wax-covered wheels. And we do use red wax on ours, though I will be experimenting with some natural rinds once we get the cheese making facility fully up and running, just to see. It is most commonly a waxed cheese, but we'll see how that goes. So you're going to use Gouda in cooking. Again, I use it in my mac and cheese along with the Gruyere. You can also serve it as an appetizer with fruit. You can do a dessert tray. And then the last of the semi-soft cheeses that are the smooth buttery ones is the Havarti. Havarti is a cow's milk cheese from Denmark, and it's a pale creamy cheese, and it has many small irregular holes, and these are what we call mechanical holes related to light pressing as opposed to those Swiss cheese holes. Those result from ripening cultures that produce gases that form the holes. So with Havarti, it's a mechanical, it's pressed so lightly that you don't press all of the air out between the curds. It has a mild buttery taste, and sometimes it's flavored with caraway seeds. So that's going to make a nice addition to a snack tray or a sandwich. Now, the veined cheeses, let's see, we got Gorgonzola. That's a blue-veined cow's milk cheese from Italy. It has a distinct aroma and a tangy, pungent flavor that is sharper in mature cheeses. Its texture is going to be smoother than that of some of the other blue-veined cheeses, such as Roquefort or Stilton, which I'll talk about in a second. Gorgonzola is used in sauces, cheese trays with fruit, and in mixed salad. Now, the Roquefort, and we have similar cheeses that are produced elsewhere, but EU law, again, it dictates that only those cheeses aged in the natural Combloux caves of Roquefort-sur-Soulzan. I didn't say that very well. Anyway, it has to be in the right place to bear the name Roquefort. And it's a recognized geographical indication. Same with Emmental, Camembert de Normandy, many others. It has a protected designation of origin, and the EU controls the names of those cheeses. So the Roquefort's made from sheep's milk. It's a crumbly blue-vein cheese, pungent taste, strong aroma. You're going to use Roquefort in mixed salads, Roquefort dressing. You can use it as cooking, an appetizer, or a dessert cheese. And then finally, Stilton. Stilton is an English cow's milk blue-vein cheese. Crumbly texture, edible rind, pungent tang, as with all the blue cheeses. Traditional complements to Stilton are fruit, walnuts, and port. All right, so that's our semi-soft cheeses. Now let's look at the soft cheeses. So we have fresh soft cheeses, and we're going to have also my brain just went, ripened soft cheeses. So we have fresh soft cheeses and ripened soft cheeses. So let's do the fresh soft cheeses first. There's quite a few of these that I'm going to talk about because there's a lot of different ways to make fresh soft cheese. And these are unripened cheeses with mild flavors and a moisture content of 40 to 80%. So when we say fresh, unripened, it means that once they're made, they're ready to eat. There's no aging whatsoever. Now, the high moisture content is going to give these cheeses a soft texture and also a very short shelf life. Cottage cheese, first off, and that gets its name from the fact that it was originally a home or cottage-made cheese. Now, commercial cottage cheese is made from skim milk, low-fat, reduced fat, or whole cow's milk, and it has a bland taste, and it comes packed in tubs, small, medium, and large curd, and it's swimming in cream. So that's creamed cottage cheese. Cottage cheese can be used in cooking as an accompaniment to fruit or raw vegetables and salad. We see that a lot on our salad bars. I loved it with peaches, canned peaches in syrup. Yummy. And then we have queso fresco. Queso fresco is literally Spanish for fresh cheese. It's a Mexican, Central South American cheese traditionally made from raw cow's milk or combination of cow and goat milk. Queso fresco, soft, moist, curd-style, fresh cheese, bright, creamy, pleasantly milky. In traditional Mexican cuisine, queso fresco is used as a crumbled or cubed topping to balance out the flavors of the rich and spicy dishes. It's perfect stuffing cheese because of the soft yet compact consistency. And today's recipe is how to make this treat quickly and easily. Paneer, an Indian paneer cheese, is very similar to queso fresco. Now, feta. Feta is a great cheese traditionally made from sheep's milk or a combination of sheep and goat's milk. After the curd forms, it's salted and then sliced and packed in a salt brine. It's a crumbly white cheese with a salty tang that grows stronger with age. It's used in cooked dishes and salads and has as an accompaniment to olives and bread. Chèvre fraise, the French version of fresh cheese. It's fresh goat cheese. Chèvre is soft and spreadable with a mild but characteristic goat cheese tang. Many times you're going to find herb and spice flavored versions. We use chèvre in cooking as a spread with crackers and raw vegetables or on sandwiches. Mascarpone. Mascarpone is an Italian cow's milk cream cheese. Cream cheese, meaning it has lots of cream, rich, creamy taste, silky, smooth texture. It's a real good dessert cheese. We use it in tiramisu, in sauces, as a spread. It can also be served plain with a sprinkle of cocoa or liqueur. Neufchâtel, I've talked about before, is a cow's milk cheese similar to cream cheese again. It's from the Neufchâtel region of Normandy. It has soft, creamy texture, slightly tart flavor, and it builds as the cheese ripens. Again, these don't ripen for very long, but you can keep them for a little while, and the flavor is going to build a little bit. You're going to use Neufchâtel in the same way as cream cheese. And my recipe, skillet chicken with Neufchâtel spinach artichoke sauce, you're going to find that in the show notes. That's some yummy stuff right there. All right, mozzarella. That's the firmest of the fresh soft cheeses. Traditionally, mozzarella is a small oval cheese made with water buffalo's milk. Although cow's milk is now a common substitute. Fresh mozzarella, white, quite mild. It melts well in cooked dishes. It's often served in salads with fresh tomatoes, olive oil, and as a cold appetizer. Now, the commercial mozzarella that you buy, that has a much firmer texture and a blander flavor, and that version is often used shredded in cooked dishes and on pizza, but you'll find it quite different than a fresh mozzarella. Ricotta. Now, all of the other cheeses before this one have been made from the curd part of the curds and whey. Ricotta is an Italian cheese made from the whey part of the curds and whey that's left over after making use of the curds. Curds are taken out, you have the whey left. So you have curds from like mozzarella or your provolone, and you take that whey and you make the ricotta. And its uses are similar to those of cottage cheese, but its flavor is slightly sweeter. It looks a lot like cottage cheese. It has a smooth, slightly grainy texture. You're going to use it in baked goods and pasta dishes. Lasagna is the most popular one. Italians also serve ricotta as a dessert cheese sprinkled with sugar or salt and as a filling for pastry. Again, it's a little bit sweeter than some of the other cheeses. All right, so those are the fresh cheeses But these are the fresh, soft cheeses. Now let's talk about the ripened soft cheeses. They have rich flavors and a buttery smoothness. They're characterized by thin rinds, kind of mushroomy rinds, and soft, creamy centers. All right, so I've got 3 of them I'm going to talk about here. Brie. Brie is a French cow's milk cheese. It's got a white, kind of crusty rind and a buttery texture that oozes at room temperature when the cheese is fully ripe. Brie has little flavor before it is ripe, and it will stop ripening once it's cut. An overripe brie develops a strong ammonia odor. You would serve a brie when its center begins to bulge slightly. You're going to include brie on appetizer and dessert trays, in sauces, and in pastry. And again, brie should be served at room temperature. Now, camembert is similar to brie. Camembert, cow's milk cheese, it's originated in the French village of Camembert. It has a slight tang, and the pasteurized version that you get mostly here, unless you can get some and make it yourself, like I do. The pasteurized version is generally milder than brie. Now, its shape is round, as is the brie, but it's a smaller diameter. And its uses mirror those of brie. So you would use it in the same ways. But it's a smaller cheese. You're looking at like a 4-inch diameter, whereas the brie is probably about an 8-inch diameter, I believe, on a brie cheese. And they're both about 1.5 inches thick. Saint-André. Saint-André is a French triple cream cheese. It's got a white, downy rind and a slightly sweet, buttery taste, and it's most often served as a dessert cheese. So a triple cream cheese means you're taking milk and you're actually adding pure cream into the milk. Camembert can be made with a little more extra cream added to it, as can the mascarpone and the Neufchâtel. Also, sometimes you'll add extra cream to those cheeses as well. All right, that's it for the various cheeses. You'll probably want to review that. You can go to the show notes and actually read a whole write-up of what I've just talked about here and get a better idea of these various kinds of cheeses. So you've got the hard, you've got the semi-hard, you've got semi-soft and soft. And of the soft varieties, you have the fresh and then you have the ripened ones. Now, let's talk about one fresh cheese, Queso Fresco. You want to make it at home? Here's an easy recipe to make it. It's a popular topping, again, for tacos, nachos, enchiladas, tostadas. Many Latin foods use this ingredient, and it is so easy. For this recipe, you need a 1/2 gallon of fresh, whole, low-fat, or skim milk. You'll get different flavors depending on how much fat's in your milk. And then a tablespoon of coarse salt and 3 tablespoons of white vinegar. So assemble a cheesecloth lined colander. Maybe put that in your sink. You're going to need that later. It's really simple. You're going to heat that milk up and the salt. Put the milk in the salt. Stir it constantly. Prevent sticking. Bring it to the boil. And then bring it all the way up to a boil. Then turn the heat to low. Add your 3 tablespoons of distilled white vinegar. And just watch it and stir it. Almost immediately, I mean literally immediately, the milk will separate into curds and whey. Now, if it doesn't, add 1 more tablespoon of vinegar, but it has worked for me with the 3 tablespoons every time. Just continue to stir gently to encourage the whey extraction and the curd formation. And just a minute or 2 is all you need. And then you're going to drain that into the cheesecloth lined colander in your sink. Let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes. So you're just draining the cheese, letting it cool enough that you can handle it. You could rinse it a little bit if you wanted to help cool it and rinse some of the vinegar flavor out of it, although the vinegar does flavor it quite nicely. Then you're just going to pick those curds up. You're going to form them into a ball or a disc where you're squeezing out the excess whey through the cheesecloth. So you just pick it up in that cheesecloth, hold the top 4 corners together and just kind of twist it so you can squeeze more of the whey out. And that's it. That is it. At this point, the cheese is ready to eat. So all you did was heat up the milk, put the vinegar in there, stir it for a little bit, and then drain it and squeeze it out. So if you want it drier, firmer, you can set it on a plate or on a sheet pan, put a plate on top of it. It'll kind of flatten it out. This is what you often see, kind of a round disc that's flat on the top and the bottom. You can use anything you want for weights. You can use cans, pots and pans, or books. I actually have some small chrome plated weights that I use, just regular barbell weights. I have some 2.5-pound weights that I'll put on it. So you can press it for 15 or more minutes. You can go up to a couple of hours pressing it. You're going to use it, you crumble it over tacos or enchiladas. You can sprinkle it into a salad. You can slice it as a side with your morning sausage and eggs. I mean, it's just wonderful. This cheese is not a melting cheese. It is not going to melt. So you just enjoy it as it is, or you can fry it in a pan, or you can bake it, as long as you don't need it to become gooey, because this is not going to be a gooey cheese. That is a wrap for today's podcast. My final thoughts. I hope your holiday season is going well and you find it in your heart to help those less fortunate than you in whatever way you can. We are blessed with food that others need, and though time is often short on the homestead, I'm making it happen and getting it to them. There's a lot more information on types of cheese available for download in PDF form on our website. There's a link in the show notes. And give that Queso Fresco recipe a try. Less than half an hour and you can have your very own homemade cheese. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hop over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe and give me a 5-star rating and a review. Share it with your friends and family who might be interested in this type of content. That is absolutely the best way that you can help me and this podcast. As always, I'm here to help you taste the traditional touch. Thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. And until next time, may God fill your life with grace and peace.